So welcome to meeting one of the 90-day breakthrough challenge. We start off today by covering one of the most important aspects of personal development, self-leadership. There is no sustained excellence. There is no sustained performance. There is no enduring success without effective self-leadership. And that's where we will start from. But I want to start off by giving you a slight overview of what the 90-day breakthrough challenge entails. So initially, start off with a couple of questions. Is this year a definite yes, a maybe, or let come what may be for you? Is this on a scale of 1 to 10? Have you actually said yes to your next level this year? And is it an all-out, no guesswork, no doubt kind of yes? Have you said yes? Are you ready to unleash your potential in 2024? What kind of yes do you get? If you get a yes that is at an 8 or below, you haven't really made your mind up about this year. Is it a definite yes? Do you have an unquestionable yes for this question? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to unleash your potential, to unleash your potential within the timeline of 2024? Are you ready to unleash your potential in 2024? I will most of the time have references. If I'm using a spiritual text, it's going to be the Bible. And when thinking of breakthrough, one of the rare verses in the Bible that actually has the concept of breakthrough is that verse from 2 Samuel 5:20. David came to Baal Perazim. He defeated them there. And he said, the Lord has broken through my enemies before me like a breaking flood. Just write down that verse and read it on your own later and do what we did with that quote from the previous meeting. You break it down. The Lord has broken through my enemies before me. I didn't hear about it. It's not secondhand. Before me, like a breaking flood. So we are seeking breakthrough during the 90 days with the idea that breakthrough can be narrowed down to a moment when something significant changes. Breakthrough can be narrowed down to a time when something changes. But that moment requires your active presence and your active participation. He came to Baal Perazim. He came and he fought. The breakthrough was augmented by a power higher than him, but he had to leave and come and fight and defeat. Do you have a strong enough yes this year to defeat your distractions? Do you have a strong enough yes this year to defeat your doubts? Do you have a strong enough yes this year to show up even when you don't feel like it? Your breakthrough is going to require your active participation. You have to show up whether you feel like it or not. You have to play all out, and you play with the goal of defeating. And in that defeat, then the breakthrough is an augmentation that elevates you. It is that moment when everything changes, when that old identity that kept holding you back no longer matters. That moment when you start seeing yourself differently, the moment when you get ready to take up opportunities that you previously were shrinking from. And so as you envision this year, if you have a definite yes, to unleashing your potential in 2024, if you are ready like David to show up and play all out with the goal of defeating what needs to be defeated, so that then you can also get the breakthrough to augment your victory. What would be your breakthrough for you in 2024? What is it that would be a breakthrough? That's your second question. So you already have three things to think about from this slide by itself. Are you ready? That question, you need to write it down and write whether it's a yes and score it, whether it is an 8 or a 6 or a 7. It might be a 5 right now. Do not try to make it a 10 if it's not a 10. If it's not a 10 right now, that's okay. That is why it's a 90-day challenge. It's not a 90-minute challenge. And this is about self-awareness and authenticity. You have to start where you are. You cannot make yourself a 10 right now if it's not a 10. We just have to recognize the reality of where are we. There are things that we will work through that will open up some of the areas that are holding you back so that your 6 can actually become a 9 in a very short time. So the first question, you just need to be truthful and authentic and real with yourself. In this challenge, especially the previous challenge, we learned something called BS. BS is a very common language that most people hear. When people say, do not BS yourself. But in this challenge, we say that BS is business studies so that we don't offend anyone. But the question is, are you ready to face your own business studies? Are you ready? Are you ready to find breakthrough by facing your own business studies? Then the second bit is that verse. Look through that verse. Just look through. Something always jumps out when you go back and look through. And then number 3, that is probably the biggest question right now. What would be a breakthrough for you in 2024? What would be a breakthrough for you in 2024? I love this poem. I just picked the last verse. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. I may not be the master of my outcomes, but I am the master of my input. If I am in charge of my input, I will know that I have already won because I did it when I did not feel like it. I did it when I was scared. I did it when I did not feel ready. I did it when I didn't have the resources. I have total control. I am the master of my fate with regards to my input. What ends up happening in terms of output, we will deal with that later. These are some of the ingredients that will keep showing up, and they will not be sequential, but you will see elements of this during the 90-day breakthrough challenge, that we will set clear intentions for the desired breakthrough. And that's why you have that assignment to define it, start defining. It will become clearer as we go along, but you have to start defining what will breakthrough look like for you so that we can set clear intentions towards that breakthrough. Number 2, to establish mature goals. That is goals that are aligned with the intentions that you have already set. And these are intentions that are geared to a well-defined breakthrough that you are going for. Then, of course, creating an elevated action plan. And this is guided by the power of execution. We are not just doing 2024. We are executing 2024. Conscious implementation strategies where you are doing it out of choice. It is your conscious choice and intention to build that new habit. The habit of doing it. When you are doing it, you are present. You're doing it at the level of executing it. Tracking progress. You measure, you calibrate and see how well you did. If there is success there, you celebrate it, and then you adjust and you repeat. You track your progress. You keep your eye on the ball for 90 days. So that by the end of the 90 days, you can look back and really be amazed at how much you've been able to do. Shared accountability. We will have a supportive and focused community, and you will have the kind of coach that does not do a lot of business studies. And sometimes people can feel certain way. It's you bring yourself to this environment, and my goal is a coach. I am not a I am your friend, but first of all, I am going to be your coach. Intentional, regular reflection. You will reflect twice a day. The morning reflection is doing your daily reset. If you're not doing your daily reset, you're already diminishing and sabotaging your own development. A daily reset. And then in addition to that, there will be 2 extra exercises that will come along the way. But for now, just start doing your evening daily reflection, running the tapes. What happened? What emotions came up? What mental images or thoughts or ideas or lessons? You run the tapes at the end of the day where you think through the entire day. These ingredients will reflect themselves over and over in the coming days. During the first month, which is February, we are looking at what is the true essence that we carry? What is that identity that God designed for me? And start rebuilding it and start leveraging the power that identity carries. So this week, we primarily will be looking at self-leadership as it relates to being authentically you and dealing with where there is BS, business studies, where there is BS, and start cleaning it up. Cultivating self-awareness, self-vigilance, beginning to notice the areas where you are unnecessarily self-conscious. That's going to be week 2. Week 3, recognizing and expanding your inner strengths. We sometimes spend too much time trying to work on improving our weaknesses while we are letting our strengths lie idle. Week 4, clarifying your vision and setting authentic goals. The goals bit will not be waiting until the final week. This is something we will be working on all along, but during that week, we will really go deep into the area of clarifying your vision and setting authentic goals. The second month, which is March, rewriting your narrative, deepen your intentionality, and cultivate your resilience. Cluttering. So decluttering will appear at least 2 or 3 times. Decluttering, releasing emotional baggage. And you may think you do or you don't have emotional baggage, but you will, it can be difficult for you to anticipate what this entails because it's hard for me to even find the language to encapsulate it the way that would make it easy for you to get what this will be about. Week 2 will be about really anchoring in a growth mindset, shifting your mindset to really honestly be growth oriented. And the big word there is willingness. Willingness, being willing to learn even in places where other people would be like, this doesn't really matter. Week 3, looking at how challenge and change and transitions can be opportunities for us to actually really grow. And how easy it is for us to let go of that precious opportunity that transition gives us. And transition happens every single day. In 2 to 3 hours, you will have had 3, 4, 5 transitions. The lessons, the most important lessons get lost because people misuse transitions. And week 4, creating a vision for your ideal self and life. And you would see that vision, we dealt with it during the first month. It will be coming in this second month. And then this is supposed to be April. That is the 4th month, unlocking your potential by clearing mental, emotional, and your physical space. This is where you have come rain, come sunshine. You have to face some things to clear up that space. So clearing up, enhancing your awareness and deepening your insight, beginning to uncover your personal wisdom, nurturing emotional resilience and adaptability. And week 4 is primarily on really anchoring in on integration. But this will not be something that waits until the final week for us to do it. So self-leadership. There are many definitions out there. This is the one I love the most. Self-leadership is the ability to influence and direct your own thoughts and actions to successfully reach your goals and build a fulfilling life. Your ability to influence and direct. John Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing less, nothing more. Your self-leadership is your ability to influence and direct In other words, the buck stops with you to influence and direct your own thoughts and actions with the goal of successfully reaching your goals and dreams and desires so that you can build a fulfilling life. And that is the task that we each have to face so that by the time we are in our 70s and 80s, when you look back, you can point out seasons in your life when you exercised such a high level of self-leadership that it changed the trajectory of your life. Here's a question for you. In 2024, we are looking for someone excellent to manage your life, someone who will go for everything that you are capable of, someone who will fulfill everything, who will learn all the lessons that need to be learned, who will reflect on all the wisdom that is accumulated, who will face all the challenges with courage and resilience. If you are hiring that kind of person, would you hire yourself for this year? Would you hire yourself? When you think, if you were to think, if you really needed someone really amazing, someone who would make this life this year really amazing, would you hire you? And if you could, that is special. You probably don't even need this class. But if there are areas where you would hire yourself, but you're like, I need you to work on this area and this area, then you're in the right environment because that is all of us. That's all of us. If we were hiring, we would presume, if we had enough money, even if it cost millions, we would presume that there might be somebody whom we can hire or maybe hire a team to come and fulfill this, except this is the one responsibility that I can't hire someone else to fulfill. So now that I cannot hire someone else to fulfill, how do I force myself to transform into the kind of person that can actually fulfill my life's potential this year to the T? What would it take for me to push myself to the point where no matter what happens this year, I am transforming into the kind of person that I would hire to run my life if I wanted my life to run at optimum? And that is the challenge in your hand. That's the challenge in my hand. How do we transform into the kind of person that we would hire and delegate our entire life to run this life and lead us to where we need to go? There are going to be at least 3 inquiries. This is the first one. This is the first inquiry. And this is, if I would narrow the entire session today to just one inquiry and that's all, one slide and that's all, that would be this slide. So now we know that we have work to do to become hireable without any question to run the kind of life that we want to live, the kind of life we dream to live this year. So this year, from now, for the next 20 years, who do you want to be? And I would like you to write down a couple of responses. Just jot down as we go along, jot down stuff. If you just listen to me and that's all, it becomes entertainment. If this is just another piece of mental knowledge, then it's just like one of those university or college classes that people request their friends to go and sign in for them. It doesn't, if it doesn't affect your life, if it doesn't affect my life, it's useless. Who do you want to be? Let's say it's 20 years from today. Who do you want to have become in 20 years from today? And what do you want to do? You need to actually put down some responses to these questions. I'm watching the clock, but we need to put down some responses to this question. What do you want to do? It's what do you want to be doing 20 years from today? That's, I think, one of the ways that helps you get out of the current moment that you are in and put you in an environment of possibility. And I would like you to write them on paper. I will let you know when I would like you to type out things. But for now, this is internal work. This is your work. This is the most important work you would ever do. Question number 3, where do you want to end up? Where do you want to end up? And this is not a physical location. It can be a physical location, but most importantly, where do you want to end up emotionally? Where do you want to end up physically? Where do you want to end up relationally? Where do you want to end up in terms of your career and contribution? Where do you want to end up in your skill? Where do you want to end up in your personal image and then your self-concept and your self-esteem? Where do you want to end up spiritually? Where do you want to end up? If you were to end up the place that you'd want to go to, and this is just the concept of place, how would you be feeling about yourself? How would you be thinking about yourself? How would you be reacting to yourself? How would you be responding to challenges when you get there where you want to go? Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? Where do you want to end up? But the most important question is why? Why do you want these outcomes? Why do you want these outcomes? This was meant to be inquiry number 1. I don't know what, I probably forgot to edit that this is inquiry number 1. Why? Why do you want these outcomes? Please make sure you've put down some responses. Who you want to be, and who you want to be should have as few external labels as possible. It's the career label, for example, become a doctor. That's outside. Most importantly, what attributes that label will be lying over. In other words, what will be under that label, the attributes. Would you want to be more courageous? Do you want to be more disciplined? Do you want to be more creative? Do you want to be more influential? Do you want to be more kind? Do you want to be more responsive and reliable? Do you want to be more influential? It has to be something deeper. What do you want to do? And the what you want to do ideally should also have a how attached to it. What do you want to do? You want to help families, how? To help them, to inspire them, how? To lead businesses, how? It's what do you want to do and where do you want to end up in terms of, and you would realize that each of these areas ends up eventually pointing to something internal, because self-leadership is an inside-out job. Self-leadership is an inside-out job. The buck no longer stops at somebody else. It stops in here. I hope you have done this work. You put down some responses, because if you didn't, then you will definitely be sabotaging yourself. That was inquiry number 1. If you put down some responses, you will realize that there are areas, probably more areas than you would have suspected, that the reason why you might struggle with self-leadership is because you don't know your outcomes clearly in all these areas. You have not been really clear about who you want to become. You have not been clear about where you want to end up emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, relationally, self-image, self-concept, self-esteem. You have not been clear. And when you lack clarity about outcome, it becomes difficult for you to lead yourself. Because clarity of outcome gives you the foundation for stronger intentions. If you don't have clear outcomes, it becomes difficult for you to set the kind of intentions that would elevate you. You can only be intentional with clear outcomes. The more clear you become, the easier it becomes for you to be more intentional and the deeper your intentionality will be. The other reason why you probably struggle to lead yourself well is because your life does not have a definite structure. Your life does not have a definite structure. One of the things that I have observed happens to people that transforms their lives is when young people or people at any age have a child, and I have observed it among all my sisters. It transforms the person's identity. And those of you who have had children, you know that. And one of the things that a child does is that a child comes with a structure. A child comes with a structure, especially in those initial days where you don't have a calendar of your own. You don't have a timetable of your own. The timetable is dictated by somebody else, but it's dictated at a level where it's no longer an option. And that is the key to your life going to the next level. Can your outcomes be so clear and be attached to such a compelling schedule that you no longer have an option about it? So that those goals, those desires, those dreams you want to pursue, you don't have an option about them. You show up and you execute because that is what has to be. You also probably might struggle from self-leadership in leading yourself well if you have weak leverage. The weak leverage that's from accountability. If in the case of a baby, the accountability is right there. The neighbors would wonder why your baby is crying all night. But how about your other silent areas of growth? If you do not have leverage, you let yourself off the hook really easily, and that means you lead yourself in a weak way. If anything, you almost do not lead yourself. In fact, you mislead yourself. The final one is one of the things that we are going to inculcate. And those who've gone through the 90-day momentum challenge and got into the habit of reflecting, you realized that you gain so much inspiration and your motivation becomes reignited every time you reflect deeply, you reflect and you feel what has already happened. Because every positive emotion you are seeking to experience, you have already experienced it before. It's just that you probably experienced it subconsciously, absent-mindedly. How many times do you see people go to a concert and they have their phone, they are recording the concert, and what they're recording, they're never going to look at it. So the concert actually passes. Their phone enjoys the concert more than they do because they are so distracted trying to record the concert instead of putting the phone in the pocket, maybe take a picture or two, but actually experience the concert. Now, the concert is on every day, and it's called the concert of my life and the concert of your life. If I am present every single day and feel the day and reflect on the day, I will realize how much I am growing, and that becomes a reward. And this is a reward that is available to you every single day. You see, unfortunately, the school system misleads us, where the school system gives us grades at the end of every term or at the end of the year, such that especially when you've done well, you get the reward of having done well at the end of the year. But when it comes to life, you need that reward at the end of almost every encounter. But at least at the end of every day, you give yourself the reward by running the tapes of the day and reflecting on what happened and noticing some of the areas and becoming intentional at noticing the areas where you did well. And most of the times, the things we did well, we regard them as ordinary. They are not ordinary. That is the fodder we need to feed our soul so that our mind begins to see us as people who act, as people who make a difference. If you overcome these four faults, become more clear, become committed to schedule, become available to an accountability that becomes the source of leverage for you to show up even when you don't feel like it, and consistently reflect so that that can start to ignite your motivation consistently, it will become so much easier for you to lead yourself. It becomes so much easier for you to put yourself in your story. You put yourself in your story by beginning to be more conscious about the role you are playing in your day-to-day basis. And as long as you are not reflecting on a consistent basis, you do not see it. Sometimes you are given extra responsibilities at work, but even sometimes you're given responsibilities when you are new or you're not even the most experienced person there, and you overlook the fact that you are picked and given that responsibility. You are given that responsibility because there's something about you that stands out, except other people see it, you miss it, and therefore you don't give yourself credit for it. As a result, you do not remember to amplify it, to feed it, to expand it and grow it. When you put yourself in the story, you put yourself at the center of the nutrition you need to start growing. When you put significance in your story, in other words, you see yourself in this story and you become intentional about making a difference, about doing things that make a difference. When you do things that make a difference, you don't need anybody else to compliment you for you to gain confidence. Your confidence is automatic. When you do things that make a difference, your confidence is automatic. By the time I was coming to the end of the 90-day momentum challenge, I could feel that something fundamental had shifted. Something fundamental had shifted in my life. And I feel this every single time I run these challenges, every single time. This is only day one, or rather meeting one, day three, meeting one. But I can already tell that this is going to be one of the most special 90-day breakthrough challenges. Put significance in your story. First, put yourself in the story. Become intentional about beginning to see you in your life, to feel the moments that occur day to day, to anticipate that tomorrow when I go to that meeting, I am going to sit on that seat and feel it and listen and hear, and put significance. Start to act in a way that affects, that brings value, so that you know, you start to train your consciousness that you are playing a significant role. Put your strengths in your story. You need to spend 80% of your time, 80% of your time working on your strengths. 80% of your time working on your strengths. 15% of your time working on the areas of growth. And areas of growth is where you are enhancing your strengths. 80% working with showing up and doing significant things with your strengths. 15% of the time in areas of growth. And only 5% of the time watching to make sure that your strength, your weaknesses do not become barriers that hold you back. Unfortunately, sometimes we spend too much time trying to improve the strength. Improving weaknesses. An improved weakness sometimes does not even carry as much potential as a dormant strength. And an awakened strength, and a strength that is continually being grown through the 15% and being executed in the 80%, there is no there are not, even if you had 30 weaknesses and you improved all of them, they would never come close to that, because your strength is wired in you by a designer who is more intelligent than all of us. And finally, if you want to really take your self-leadership to the next level, to reignite it, stop trying. Stop doing. Start executing. Start executing. Those resolutions that are still stuck with you since 2015, this is the year when they go. Those goals and desires, this is the year when they go. If there are any goals that are stale, this is the year when they go, so that we can embrace adult, new, fresh, aligned goals and dreams and desires and start moving towards them and get beyond that pattern of procrastination. We will be taking the agreements from this book and working with them, one agreement per week. Last week, we were dealing with agreement number 1. Be impeccable with your word. This week, from now until Friday, the new agreement is don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. This is an element of self-leadership. And so say these things directly to yourself in person, in the first voice. I won't. I won't take anything. I won't take anything personally. I won't take anything personally. Because nothing other people say is because of me. Nothing other people say is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality and their own dream. By being immune to other people's opinions and actions, I will cease being the victim of needless suffering. I won't take anything personally, at least for the life of this challenge. I will not take anything personally. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the challenge of self-leadership. There's a lot of work that I have already, each of you has already picked that you need to do. So the structure of this challenge will be that we will have a short plenary session. Sometimes the short can be up to an hour, but I will try to keep shortening it. We'll have a plenary session, and then we go into groups. We go into groups for 15 to 20 minutes. And then after that, we come back and do plenary reflection, and we will conclude. This is the single most important pillar in the 90-day breakthrough challenge. Everything else builds on this. Self-leadership. Self-leadership. If we succeed in fulfilling the goal and vision of the 90-day breakthrough challenge, for some of you, the environment you live in, by the end of the challenge, you will begin to feel out of place in that environment. Or if you have recently been promoted, you will feel comfortable in the new environment, the new challenging environment. Something has to change. And so at this point, I'm going to send you all to your groups. Join your group, preferably turn on your video, but most importantly, contribute. People need to see you. People need to interact with you. This is probably the only meeting where we will have less than 10 people out of 47 people's videos on. That will not happen. That will not happen. Because otherwise it's